Welcome back. We have some home video, some amateur video that was shot by a former astronaut, Story Musgrave, who shot this as he was aboard the shuttle Atlantis, going into re-entry back into the Earth's orbit in 1997. I want to watch and give you a flavor of what it's like for these astronauts to come back to Earth.
You see the plasma tail trailing us behind as the hot plasma streams around the orbiter and goes back over the tail. It's a spectacular light show.
During that time where you saw the plasma trail behind us, we were tilted up at an angle of attack of about 40 degrees. Here we are looking out through a camera over the nose of the vehicle, and now the angle of attack is much lower and we're flying more like an airplane. It is dark overhead, so the only way to see us was with an infrared camera, and that's what you see in the upper right inset in this view.
Let's bring in our analyst, Randy Avera, former NASA engineer. Randy, as you watch that dramatic video, giving us a tiny little bit of a flavor of what it's like. It seems so remarkably calm in there as the shuttle is coming back, making its re-entry into the Earth's orbit. Is it that calm?
It's very calm. In fact, on the first shuttle mission, STS-1 of Columbia back in 1981, the commander, John Young, and the pilot, Bob Crippen, said they felt like they were sitting in their living room in an easy chair. It's very benign or calm compared to the violent vibrations during boost to orbit.
And they're going so remarkably fast at that moment. It seemed like they're almost sitting. They're not even moving. But how fast are they going?
Well, the deorbit burn starts at about Mach 25. And as you come down through the atmosphere, the Mach numbers begin to get smaller and smaller, but anything above Mach 2 is a high Mach number, but above Mach 10, we're talking ultrasonic flight. And the flow around the top side of the orbiter is a lower temperature than that around the bottom side, so you can imagine what an inferno it is on the bottom of the orbiter. And as they do banking turns left and right, it also has increases of temperature due to that cross-range and banking maneuver.
As we talk, I want to just replay that video for our viewers as we continue to assess the latest in the investigation. A couple of points, Randy, while I have you. The fact that that nose cone has now been found, picked up, and is being moved to take a close look at it. What do they hope to learn from that?
Well, right through these windows that, now this is the overhead window like on a sunroof on a car that you may have. This is looking over the top into the back of the orbiter. The orbiter nose is pitched up 40 degrees, and you saw that ionization. These are electrons of air that are being stripped off and turned into a plasma, a very thick, viscous, aerodynamic situation compared to the thin atmosphere we're used to on the ground. And the initial part of that video was out through the forward windows where the pilot and commander view through, and that is only about 15 feet from that nose cap that has been recovered. And the nose cap gets into the temperature range of 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, only about 15 feet in front of those glass windows, those fused silica glass windows.
So presumably the discovery of that nose cap could help in this investigation dramatically. Also the fact that they're now finding apparently bits and pieces in California. Tell our viewers the significance of that.
Well, just similar to any type of an aircraft accident, if pieces are coming off of the airplane, you may remember the DC-10 crash in Sioux City, Iowa, where on that number 2 engine up on the vertical tail, the fan had separated from the aircraft and fallen into a cornfield many, many miles from the Sioux City, Iowa airport. So parts that leave the aircraft early in flight, there's a reason for that. And in fact, if you look at this model of an orbiter, if parts are on the rear or up on the front, if they depart the vehicle, for example, if you have a part coming off on the front, it could do secondary impact damage along the fuselage and towards the tail. But obviously, if something came off the rear, it's less likely to damage, of course, the forward part of the orbiter. So why and when these components come off the orbiter is extremely important in understanding what happened in the event as we saw it on Saturday.
That foam that presumably may have come off the external fuel tank and hit the wing. Show our viewers on that model what might have happened.
This is not to scale, but if you imagine this block as that piece of foam coming down off the external tank and coming along this left-hand lower part of the wing of the orbiter where the black tiles are located. It was in this general area where that impact was apparent in the video. It's important to note that the dimensions of the size of the object of the foam that NASA has released, it's a length, width, and height dimension. Well, if the object hit with the wide part, that's one scenario. If it was a narrow part, that's another scenario. But a more interesting part is, what if it hit on a sharp edge? If you think of a large chunk being not exactly smooth on all surfaces and having square, sharp edges, if that were to hit that delicate ceramic coating on the black tiles, that's a third scenario that's very important in doing the analysis work of how much damage could have been done to those black tiles and also to the gray reinforced carbon-carbon on the leading edge of the wing.
Randy, before I go, I just want to replay one more time that videotape we have, the NASA tape that Story Musgrave, the former astronaut, shot on his re-entry on Atlantis, the Atlantis shuttle in 1997. Briefly narrate what we're seeing.
Forward windows, we're behind the pilots looking forward. Now, again, the overhead windows, kind of like a sunroof on a car or truck. And that's a very high degree of plasma that you see there. The flashing effect is because of the discharge with the electrons. If you think about lightning, all the visible light that you see from the electron flow, the plasma that you see over the top of the orbiter is pulsing, discharging those high charges of electrons.
All right, Randy Avera, our CNN analyst, thanks very much.
Focused on a new image captured by an Air Force camera in the final moments of the Columbia mission and what could be a very important discovery on the ground, a piece of one of the wings. Once again, here's CNN's Brian Cabell.
About a minute before the shuttle Columbia broke apart, an Air Force camera at Kirkland Air Force Base in New Mexico caught this image of Columbia overhead. If you look at the right wing, there appears to be a jagged edge on the front of it, possibly an indication of problems. There's also what appears to be a cloud of smoke trailing behind the right side.
It's not clear to me that it reveals anything significantly at this point. We've got a long way to go. And we have to add up all the different photographs and look at every piece of information and catalog it properly until we get the right data set.
NASA also released diagrams of the problematic left wing in the final 7 minutes before Columbia broke apart. Initially, all the sensors, the circles, were green, indicating they were operating properly. But then over the next few minutes, the sensors, one by one, started turning red, indicating a high temperature. And then some started shutting down altogether.
Okay, here we are at approximately 7:54 a.m. Central Standard Time. No reports from the crew, no reports from our flight control teams. Everything is operating and functioning nominally in all of our systems. All we are seeing is some of these sensors dropping offline in a sequence of events over a period of time.
Investigators are trying to learn what the pattern of sensor failures might mean. Of particular interest in the investigation is this portion of the shuttle wing, about 2 feet long, that was found Thursday in Nacogdoches, Texas. The insulating tiles were still attached to it. Investigators don't yet know whether it's from the left wing or the right wing.
Investigators so far have recovered and cataloged more than 1,000 items of debris, and in the next few days they're hoping to get many more. But what they're hearing is that they also have 350 reports of debris outside the states of Louisiana and Texas. None of those have been confirmed yet. The only confirmed items so far they have are within Texas and Louisiana. Aaron?
Brian, thank you. Brian Cabell in Houston tonight.